Good morning, everyone. This is Dan with the Spiritual Underground Podcast. I'll get to all the other stuff in a little bit. Kind of taking a minute to do a little monologue before my guests show up in the morning, if I'm or in the evening, afternoon, whenever they're showing up. If I have a few minutes before the microphone, I'm going to take advantage of it. This morning's reading caught me, and everybody's hopped up about the coronavirus, and not to say that it's not something to worry about, but frankly, I'm not too worried about it. It seems we have some panic situation going on every year or two, and when you look back on it, until I look at the list that somebody puts on Facebook of every panic over the last few years, specifically with a list I saw started with the whole Y2K panic, which I fully participated in. I realize, this too shall pass, and not get myself too wound up into giving my vital life's energy to this virus. Today's daily reflection says the God idea. Matter of fact, it's March the 15th today, this morning. LJ's coming in the studio. March 15th is also my younger brother's birthday, so happy birthday, Neil. The God idea. When we saw others solve their problems by a simple reliance upon the spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. That's out of page 52, which I think is, We Agnostics. So God, I've said this a couple times on here too, we say Kleenex and Coca-Cola. We use a lot of brand names, so to speak, for certain things. When somebody hands me a tissue, I do not turn the box over to see if it's really a brand name Kleenex. I accept the Kleenex as for what it is, and thank them and use it properly, or sometimes improperly. I kind of think about that same idea when people say God. I used to flinch, and when people say Jesus, I'd flinch, and I still have that little flinch in me once in a while when the J word is used. It's old training. It's going away, but years of building up a resentment about that hasn't left completely. It's left intellectually, but it's still down there in the DNA, so to speak. But I'm doing better about it, and I can talk to somebody, and I can I'm actually learning to use their words back to them, because I don't really care about the word that's being used. It's more about what's coming from the heart and the ideas around it, than the grunts and groans and the noises we make when we use our vocal cords. And that's an interesting point, that Bill does make in the big book. It says, lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live. It had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how were we to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main objective is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, that which will solve your problem. Another page past it says, when therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God. This applies to other spiritual expressions which you find in this book. Do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms. I'll rephrase that. Do not let any prejudice you have against words deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. In a minute it says either God is or isn't. There's something out there in the universe or there's not. I believe there is and choose to operate that way. And I have to lay this whole coronavirus thing at the foot of that concept also, or else I'm not practicing these principles. Kind of goes with everything. It's one day at a time. Obviously we should be smart. They say wash your hands. Well, we probably should do that, really. Of course, then again, I have another idea about that. Maybe some of the problems we have are a bit due to our over cleanliness. Maybe we ought to be picking something off the ground and eating it once in a while to build up a defense system. And I wonder about that having to do with a lot of things that are going on today and how quick kids get sick and allergies that didn't used to exist. But as I sometimes do, I can overthink some concepts that don't necessarily help me with my application of my vital energy towards the things that count, like helping other people, carrying this message, being a friend to my friends, and taking care of my kids in the way they deserve to be taken care of, and giving my dad the due respect he should receive. Brings a couple other things. We say your own conception, and I can put a period there, because I got to learn to allow people to have their own conception of whatever they have and not be judgmental about that. Whether if that's your own conception of God, your own conception of meditation, your own conception of the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. Many things I had to stop short on that, your own conception, and let the term be what it is after that, and allow people to have that, and hope that you will allow me to have mine. Same thing goes to the words from the book, the big book. It say improve your conscious contact. So your own conception goes, your own conception of God, your own conception of a higher power. To improve your conscious contact means to, my guest just walked in. How's it going, LJ? Good. I'm doing a little thing beforehand here, so just hang tight, please. To improve my conscious contact, right? Well, I can put a whole lot of terms after that. Improve my conscious contact also. I can improve my conscious contact with my dad. I can improve my conscious contact with my significant other. I can improve my conscious contact with my kids. The term goes to improve a conscious contact with God of my understanding, I believe is the way it goes. And but I can open that up too, and that's one of the things my sponsors always taught me to do, is to broaden these definitions and not get pigeonholed into that. So enough of that. Just bring you a little talk, just because I like to share a little of this stuff. Got a big project done this week where I took a bookshelf and turned it into a set of cabinets for some folks. It turned out really good. It's nice to stand back. It's almost a little surreal to stand back and get done with the job and look at it and go, damn, I did that. I almost don't feel like I did. And at some level, I know my hands and head and I was a part of it, but it does feel a little divinely inspired sometimes, where it doesn't really feel like it was really totally my control. Also did a laminate floor job for some folks. Actually, it's that vinyl, luxury vinyl planking, and turn around and I've done a couple of those before, and they just turn out looking. It's just whoever invented that system is brilliant, because it is an awesome way to put down some nice looking flooring, relatively economically and quick and cheap, and also doesn't leave behind the residue that the old flooring systems did, because on this particular job I had 3 layers of floor to pick up before I could put down the one I needed to. And that adhesive and all that is a pain in the butt. Man, you want to take up this vinyl flooring or that plank flooring, man, you just tear it up, take quarter round up, disassemble it. It's really clean. Business is going good. Life's going good. Having fun day by day. We will celebrate this Thursday night. Will be the 1-year anniversary of the TSSR meetings. The inaugural meeting started on March the 14th, yesterday actually, 1 year ago. And a lot of lives are being touched by that too, opening up these 12-step principles to folks who normally wouldn't fit into the traditional fellowships. The touches me, and that I get to be a part of that too. It's another one of those step back and go, wow, I'm a part of that. What else is going on? There's one other thought I had, and it slipped me. The 1-year anniversary of TSSR. Spiritual Underground has my home group has a little bit of a new character going on. Some folks, frankly, just honestly left the meeting and decided to move on to other things. Cut back our numbers a whole bunch. Kind of wonder if that's not a natural evolution of things too, that once things get so big that it's tough to sustain them, so they'll split apart. It's kind of like a cell growth or something, where it splits apart so that there's room for more growth. So I hang my hat on that. We got a new era coming in, so to speak, a new season. Just like life has full of seasons. You might be with this person for a season and that person for a season, or you might be into this particular activity for a season and that particular activity for a season. It's another one of those concepts that broaden that and just let that be and try to be in the flow of things. Try to figure out where my place is. Allow that God of my understanding to help guide me that direction. So, in just a moment, we'll be right back and we'll get started with LJs Story. I won't go into too much of that at the moment. See you in a few minutes. Good morning, everyone. This is Dan with the Spiritual Underground Podcast, coming to you from the studios at DTM Enterprises, my little wood shop in the backyard. Speaking of that, go to dtmww.net or find me on Facebook or DTM Woodwork and Handyman. If you have any woodwork or handyman services, need anything like that in the Louisville metropolitan area, contact me there. Christopher Cohn wrote a book, and you've heard about it unless this is the first time you've listened to this podcast. It's called 12-Step Spiritual Recovery. It can be found on Amazon. We're just hitting up on, actually yesterday was a 1-year anniversary of the meeting, so we've had that moving along for a year. 12-Step Spiritual Recovery, James Christopher Cohn on Amazon, or you can go to 12stepspiritualrecovery.com and read about the movement. Darren Frank's music is wrapped around this podcast. Darren continues to recover, and his physical recovery from some health issues, and a little bit this whole virus thing's got him shut down where he can't have any visitors and can't get out of the place, so that ain't helping his spirits a whole lot. But I've watched Darren walk through a lot of things, so this would be no he will make it through this too. But contact him if you know him. He could use the help. If this is the first time you've listened to Spiritual Underground Podcast, we are primarily a 12-step based recovery podcast. I do like to explore other avenues, and I like to explore other things that enhance one's recovery or may enhance one's recovery, and also to explore ways how other people have found or reclaimed their true self, found their true voice, using other avenues other than 12 steps. So we're just beating that topic around week to week, new content weekly. Appreciate you guys listening. It's a piece of my recovery that I never would have imagined that I'd be doing someday, but truly grateful for this opportunity and truly grateful for you guys out there listening. So my guest today, LJ, I guess it's probably been a little over a year ago, because I think celebrated a year. When was it? September. And so, and I really don't know if it was then, but timelines, again, I can continue to use this little phrase. If I knew I was going to have to tell this, if I knew I was going to be telling this story, I'd have kept better track. You may know when the first time you walked into Spiritual Underground was, but I remember you coming in, and I remember meeting you. I always remember I've got this goofy thing about, and I say goofy, but I've got this gift of remembering faces and names, and I didn't have it before recovery. It's mostly a post-recovery thing. Once my mind cleared, and so I remember when somebody comes in, or I immediately pick up on when somebody comes into our home group and I haven't seen them before. Sure. And so it picks up, and then I make a point to listen for their names when we go around and introduce each other. We go around the entire group and introduce ourselves, and I made a little game out of, I know most people's names, but I make sure that I focus and I catch, so it doesn't get by me when somebody is new in the room, so that I hear what their name is and I can kind of imprint it, and then usually once I lock in on it, I got it forever. Cool. But I remember you coming in, and I remember you, I will say this is a judgment on my part. It may not be right. In mankind, we say judgment and data. So when it's my thoughts, and I'm not sure if they're right, or, this is my judgment about it, not necessarily the facts. I saw a guy who was, not feeling this whole recovery thing, really.
Yeah.
he was there because he knew he needed to be there, and that something was nudging him along in that direction, like a path that maybe you've not been down before, but you find the real cool thing down the path, and not really knowing if the path was going to lead me anywhere. You seemed a little down, but you also had this underlying hope thing underneath of that too, though. There was this little ember of hope in your smile, and then I think, if I remember right, I didn't see you for a little bit, and then you came back.
Yeah, it was a few weeks after the first time I came in there, and you hit the nail on the head, man. You hit the nail right on the head when you said all that, because that's exactly how I was feeling when I got there, you know. But yeah, it was a few weeks after the first time I came in, and you welcomed me back in by name, you know, and that was a big reason why I came back to Spiritual Underground.
Yeah, and then I think you stayed.
I did.
At that point.
I did.
Yeah, I was thinking that, yeah. We'll get into some story stuff in a little bit, because I know a little bit of it since we share a sponsor today.
Yeah,
right. That other, I don't know if Christopher asked you specifically, but I picked up a couple of new people just the other day that asked me to take them through the work. And one of my, I have a set of ground rules I use when I sponsor somebody, and one of them is I specifically ask for permission to talk to my sponsor and my support group about you, so that we're above table. Now, what I'm not going to do, what word? I'll just say that. I'm spiritually fit enough to know what is appropriate to share and what is not. Right. And I always tell people, if it's something specifically personal, and I can make that decision pretty well without much question. If it's something specifically personal, I'm going to ask your permission again later on about, hey man, you mind if I talk to my sponsor about that? Because I'd like to get some we say we admitted this is a we program. I can't do it on my own. I need these other people's help we need all these people's help to do this thing, right?
Sure.
So in the same regard, my sponsor will talk to me a little bit about the other guys he's working with. And again, it's never anything real personal. It's always, that'll pull this way. There's actually, this is kind of funny. These microphones have like a heart-shaped bubble in front of that sign on the front of it.
All right.
So if you stay someplace in the front of it,
I think we're good right here.
it's good. And it actually hopefully blocks out coming from behind, so that doesn't really do that. It does it a little bit. These microphones pick up pretty good. We're just trying to get adjusted here where we're working good. And again, I always say this podcast is not a sterile environment. This is the real deal. Two guys sitting down. When I say studio, we're in a dusty wood shop, and with relatively makeshift equipment, producing this thing, a laptop and a couple pretty low budget microphones, frankly, but it gets the word across. So I know a little about you, so that's why I was getting that. That is a whole big story about that permission to speak thing, sure. Christopher. So we'll get to that a little bit later, because I know a little bit about that, and of course I want to hear that part of it too, because it's important to me that that we carry this message. Should I go there now? Yeah, I will just say it. You sparked up big time when you went through the steps with Christopher, and that's TSSR methodology, and it revolutionized the way you're operating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when anytime anything enhances someone's recovery, whatever it is, I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Whether if it's yoga, mankind, TSSR, that kind of stuff. I'm going to share what enhances my recovery.
For sure.
And I also hope that when I'm talking to you, that you share the things with me that's enhancing yours, because I might need to, I didn't know anything about mankind until somebody said something to me about it, and these other things. So we'll get to talking about that. What's your sobriety date?
September 22nd, 2018.
September 22nd. So we just said a minute ago you celebrated a year in September.
I did.
I was trying to get to... I was making a point to get people in here on near their sobriety 1 year sobriety dates, which I still do try to do that. We were talking a little bit before the microphones came on that I kind of I had Becky on last week, and her podcast come out this morning. I was thinking, why I waited so long to ask Becky to be on the podcast, and I kind of had the same feeling with you. But as you were saying,
yeah, I had thought about asking you a couple months ago about being on the podcast, and what needs to be done for me to do a podcast with you. And I guess that fear or whatever it was kind of set in again. And I was like, I just cowered down. I was like, no, I'm not going to ask him. I'm not ready. And then a few weeks later, you came to me and asked me. And like I said earlier, man, I don't think I was ready then. It wasn't the right time.
Yep.
And this is the perfect time, man. I'm so anxious and so excited to do this today.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get it out.
Things happen in their time, and again, just like the rest of this other stuff, man, if I'm not operating under that, then I'm violating some principles that are fundamental to me in here, the one day at a time, the acceptance, all these other little tidbits of principles and stuff around here, and one of them is that things will happen when thy will be done.
Yeah, that's right.
That kind of
that's right.
energy. Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up here in Louisville.
Did you?
Yeah. Both parents, relatively calm house. Really, really tight interactions with both my parents. My dad raced cars at Louisville Motor Speedway.
Oh, cool.
So there's pictures of me in diapers standing on his lap driving the car.
Oh, wow.
Loading the car up on the trailer and stuff. Played baseball. Dad coached my baseball teams up until I gave up on myself, I guess. So, but yeah, we'll get to that. Growing up was good, man. Like I said, we were always tight-knit family. We always did stuff together. If they were doing something, they involved me. I do have a brother. He was born in 1991. And everything was great then, too. I was the big brother, that was a badge that I wore for a little while.
How many years between y'all?
There's 8.
Yeah, pretty good spread.
Yeah. But I wore that big brother badge for a long time, man. And once I realized that I wasn't getting all the attention anymore, it pissed me off, and that resentment thing came in. Yeah,
I've heard a number of people talk about their first resentments being their birth of a younger sibling.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And it wasn't a resentment towards him or anybody in particular. It was everybody.
Yeah.
Even people I didn't know I had resentments against at that point, which led me down the path that I'm off of today.
Yeah. And then at that point in time, you didn't know what a resentment was. You just knew something was not okay.
Yeah, I was pissed off because I wasn't getting all the attention.
Yeah.
Dad wasn't coaching teams anymore, and we were still doing things. We still went fishing every weekend religiously, every Sunday, whether it was raining, NASCAR on, whatever.
Oh, really?
Dad we were at the lake. Huh. So we still did
Where'd
that.
y'all go?
Mostly? We had just a bunch of little farm ponds that he knew,
yep.
Friends of his, and but it was fun. It was real fun.
Yeah, when you said the lake, when I say the same thing, we were at the lake weekend after weekend for a season in my life, and when I say that, I mean Pawtucket Lake.
Yeah,
because that was the lake. That's where we went.
We would go down to Nolan for weekends. My buddy has had a houseboat out there, so we'd go out there occasionally, but for the most part, it was just little farm ponds around Louisville and Taylorsville.
Yeah, farm pond fishing is fun. I bummed around doing that stuff growing up all my life, from the time when we had driver's license and even before, my dad would take us to the little forestries and the other little places, and we'd go fishing, and, even in the wintertime at times we'd go out and drill a hole in the ice and go ice fishing. And then as we got a little older and was doing, got our driver's license, there's probably not I stayed in Indiana from a licensing standpoint for the most part. I would go fishing in Kentucky some and buy Kentucky licenses at times, but it was just easier to do here. And I don't know what it is, maybe a 60 to 100 mile radius of New Albany to the Ohio River. Right. I've probably fished every public water, because there's a ton of these little 10, 20 acre lakes in southern Indiana that and some of them maybe even are smaller than that, but that are really nice places to go fishing. And a lot of them are trolling motor only. They don't allow gasoline motors. In Indiana, there's a limit to how big a lake, and they don't want the gasoline motors on there. So you go to those nice little quiet lakes where everybody's just running an electric motor.
Nice.
And real peaceful. Man, we've slayed a lot of bluegill in those little places too, man. There's nothing funner to me growing up, and I still have a soft spot in my heart for it, and have kind of gotten away from it, but I do, is to go bluegill fishing in the springtime.
Yeah.
And catch big slab bluegills and bring them home, clean them, and eat them suckers.
Nice. Nice.
Did y'all eat fish that y'all were catching?
We did. We did. Dad hated it because I would want to bring home every bass we caught. You know, he hated filleting them, and
really?
today I understand why, because it's kind of a pain in the butt to fillet a bunch of fish.
I've filleted. Man, it'd be unreal how many bluegill I filleted in my lifetime. There'd be no way, because I mean, there's lots of times we catch 100.
Yeah. Oh, I guarantee.
And when you and a buddy or two sit down and clean 100 fish, you're cleaning fish for a while.
It's a job. Yeah,
and,
it turns into a job.
And we would be drinking beer the whole time too. Once we hit a certain age, and we're doing that, it'd be one hand in. We'd have a cooler full of fish because we kept them on ice. We put made an icy water bath.
Yeah.
And we catch a fish and throw them in there,
and
and it'd kill them real quick. Plus, it's hell to clean fish that are moving.
Yeah.
This way they were, and I think it kept the meat really good too, because it like immediately refrigerated them. Mm-hmm. And so you'd have one cooler full of beer and one cooler full of ice and fish. Wow. And you didn't give a shit about the smell on your hands, No. You'd have them scales and all this, and you'd reach in there and you'd be grabbing another beer, and
for sure.
Yeah, and it was a blast, man. It was fun. Those were fun freaking times, man.
Yeah.
But you look back at the insanity of behind this, laying underneath of it was, driving home pretty damn drunk from fishing.
Yeah, it's scary to look back at some of that.
Yeah.
It's real scary to look back.
Yeah, drinking and driving was a hobby.
Yeah, for sure. I can relate, for sure.
So, back to you. Growing up and fishing, and brother was born, and then things started dropping off. You weren't getting the attention that you once received. What would you have been? I mean, you've been 8, so I guess you'd still been a little guy.
Yeah. The baseball, everything, the attention worked for... it was still mine, I guess, for a couple years, for the most part. I guess when I was 12 or 13 is when I really started noticing the big difference, Like, Steven, my brother, was up and moving around, getting into all my stuff, my time.
Yeah.
He's banging on my door, pulling games out of the Super Nintendo, just being a little heathen.
Being a kid,
exactly. And I would get in trouble for him doing stuff to me, because I would react to it. And I got tired of getting in trouble about stupid shit. So I started doing my own thing, man. I started distancing myself from the trouble, which distanced myself from the people who meant most to me, my family, Started hanging out with a couple guys down the street. And I never felt part of in anything, man. So I had like 1 or 2 friends growing up, and that was all the way me. Like I said, I've never felt part of. The guy 2 doors down from me saw me outside playing basketball by myself one day. I was probably 13, and then we started talking after that. I guess when I was 14, I had my first drink, and that physical allergy and that manifestation, man, it just took over. From that day on, it was, okay, this makes me feel good. This makes me feel better and forget about my problems at home.
Yeah.
So that went crazy, man.
You remember what it was?
The drink? Actually, I do. It was, my mom used to drink, well, my dad, being in the garage, would drink beers on occasion. Like, it was never an alcoholic house. Like, he would have a couple beers with his friends in the garage, working on the car, whatever.
We always had beer around here, but it never was. My family was not. There was no alcoholic drinking. It was just like Cokes in the fridge.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't remember ever. I remember maybe 1 or 2 times growing up that my mom and dad got into an argument because dad was drunk. She said, but other than that, man, like, it's a weekend night in the garage. It's typical. And I learned that growing up.
Yeah.
It never got out of hand. No physical, no nothing like that. But I do remember my first drink. It was one of my mom's peach fuzzy navel wine coolers that she used to get, man. Me and a buddy took a couple of them and walked around the neighborhood and thought we were hot shit.
Yeah.
But like I said, man, after that first drink, man, it was, everything took off. I drank for probably, and it didn't immediately take off like a full flight from reality or nothing, man. It was, when I saw a couple a bottle of wine, a bottle of champagne or whatever, we'd crack the cork and take a couple swigs here and there, maybe a wine cooler, a beer here and there, until I was about 14 or 15, until I was about 15. And then it turned into bottles for me.
Liquor.
Yeah, liquor. Yeah. We would get a half pint between me and one other person, and we'd sip on it and probably drink half of it and be drunk as hell, just 15 years old. 85, 90 pounds at that time, I wasn't weighing in at all. That really hit hard. Around that time, man, I started seeing people in the neighborhood a couple doors to the other direction having all these parties and stuff, man. Like, he was getting all this attention, all these females were coming over, all these cars and flashy cars and money and jewelry, all this stuff, man. And it was like, dude. And the guy that I was hanging out with he was friends with him. But again, I didn't feel part of. I didn't feel like I fit into any group of people growing up, man. No, at all. Even when I was on the baseball teams, I was always by myself. I always felt by myself, like I want to recluse and stay away from everybody because I don't want to involve myself in for whatever reason. I still don't know why. But I'm not like that today, thank God. Thank God for that. But the guy down the street, man, I kept seeing all these females coming over, and I'm 15, 16 years old, and that's where I'm at now. That's what I want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so eventually, my little half pint turned into pints and fifths and half gallons, and I would go over there and realize, hey, they're drinking too. And then they kept going down in the basement for other things. They'd slip off and go in the basement or in the bathroom, and it's like, okay, these females are following y'all. Like, I want to follow y'all too, and saw what they were doing. Didn't partake just yet.
What were they doing?
They were snorting stuff. They were doing coke and smoking pot and crack and ecstasy and acid and just pretty much everything. And that's where my story really began with that, man. And I think I remember I was 16 years old, man, walking down the street. We're walking in the neighborhood. I'd been drinking and smoking pot at the time. And that's all I was doing at the time, was drinking and smoking pot. We were walking down the street, and the guy, my buddy, told me, he said, I'll give Jeff a hit of this acid if you eat just a corner of it. If you just eat a piece of it, I'll give him a whole piece. So, okay, cool. I made a new friend. You're talking to me. So I ate that little piece of acid, man. And
blotter? Paper?
No, it was Joe.
Was it?
Yeah, it was actually, it was a purple Joe. It's crazy how I remember these things. I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's the impact these things had on us.
It's crazy.
As my first was, as I was taking acid before I was driving. I really didn't, again, that's the whole story thing, but I do distinctly remember, riding home when the bicycle as the daylight was coming up, because I needed to be in my room when it got light in the morning. Yeah, I'd go out my window. Yeah, and I needed to be back home. And I remember, like, this morning, actually, is one of those mornings that I have that memory will pop back of those mornings of coming back home because the birds are singing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the daylight. It was cracking daylight this morning, and I was outside, and it's like, and I can remember, coming up here. I parked I don't know why Mom and Dad never got wise to the fact that I was parking my bike outside the garage next to the house. But yeah, you can remember those things that those imprentice. That's yeah, it was. So, what rough. Did you feel anything off of this? Eating a little bit of it?
Honestly, I'm sure I did. I don't really remember.
Don't recall that part.
I don't really remember. That went on for quite some time.
Because I know the first time I took it, it was a full-blown take-one. Yeah. And a buddy had knew what was up with it. And I, of course, was, again, there was a bunch of fear inside of me deep. Like, there always was you really shouldn't be doing this. Yeah. But the wanting to fit in, and also the rejection I feared if I would have not done it, if I'd have said no. Yeah. The rejection I'd have feared from my peers and that kind of thing way overrode any kind of feeling of actually saying no.
Sure. Yeah. I completely relate, man. Like I said, that went on for quite some time.
Put that on the group.
Let's see the acid there. Okay, so still trying to withhold everything from mom and dad, and at the house of my new lifestyle. We would disappear to the creek to go smoke pot, or drink or whatever, and we'd be gone from sun up to sundown and sometimes later. And that was okay at the time because mom and dad had the baby. They were occupied, you know. So what I thought, they weren't really seeing me anymore. It didn't matter what I was doing. So I just did what the hell I wanted to do, man. Got my first job when I was, I guess, 15 or 16. At the little restaurant down the street from where I grew up. I was walking through the alley, and this old guy came out the back door and said, "Hey, you want a job?" "Yeah, sure." He said, "I'll pay you cash, wash some dishes." All right, cool. So he paid me daily. He paid me at the end of each day to wash dishes in his restaurant until I was 18, and he could put me on the payroll. Between 16 and 18, man, I've met my kid's mom in middle school in 7th grade as when we got together. Had 3 daughters. But when I was 16, she lived in Shelby County, and her uncle would come get her to take her to school out here on Westport Road. And he did other things too, that I hadn't yet noticed. It's when, he smokes, and it was like, okay, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to smoke crack. I'm never going to stick in it yet. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that happened just as quick as everything else did, man. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and again, one of those things. I remember this perfectly vividly. He came over and he had this big old chunk. Here, let's just sit here and let's smoke. And it was a debate between her and I. Like, okay, we've done coke before. This is the same thing. Let's go ahead. I'll do it if you do it. And she didn't make it to school that day, and we ended up smoking a whole bunch of dope that day. And once I hit that, it was on. It was on. That was my new life, and I did absolutely anything I could do, anything I could think of to get that next one in me.
Smoking crack.
Yeah. That spree lasted for about 8 years.
Really?
Yeah, that spree lasted for 8 years, man. And throughout that 8 years, that relationship I had with my parents dwindled big time because I took everything they had, man. Everything they had that wasn't bolted down, and secured with the bolts. Because if it was bolted down, I was going to unbolt it. If it wasn't welded shut, I was getting in it. It didn't matter if it was safes. It didn't matter if it was dad's tools in the garage. It didn't matter. It did not matter.
Yeah, we can sure wreck some things, man, and it is unreal that you think that I still like that parasite theory or concept of like the disease being a parasite where it hijacks your operating system.
It sure does.
And you're not the things you're doing are what you would not be doing, obviously, if you were spiritually fit. And by spiritually fit, I mean my spirit is being in the right place.
Yeah.
And to think the opposite of that is doing stuff that's completely out of bounds of what stealing from our parents.
Almost definitely. There's many times, man, I can reflect on today, and I at the time of even doing it was like, man, this is horrible. You know what I mean? Like tears in my eyes, tears rolling down my face as I'm taking whatever it is and putting it in my pocket to go to the pawn shop or go down to Smoketown or wherever. It's like, dude, this is just
because I need some money to get some more.
I've got to have it though. There's no other option. You know what I mean? It's either this or I go stick somebody up and whatever. There's no option.
Yeah.
And it was horrible. That feeling that you were just saying, man, is awful. Like but it wasn't awful enough to make me not do it. Christmas money out of the state, it didn't matter. You know what I mean? It did not matter to me what I was getting as long as I was getting it. for that 8+ years.
Wow.
And my parents, like, they knew, you know what I mean? It started out small, $20 here, a wrench or an impact wrench here or there. Started out small, and then it moved up to cars, and moved up to hundreds, it moved up to the safe, it moved up to my brother's game systems left and right. I mean, as quick as they get them, I'd take them. And as soon as I'd take them, he's the baby, he's going to get another one.
Wow.
And he did. I couldn't tell you how many PlayStations, Xboxes we went through in that house because of me taking them. And when I realized pawn shops don't give you enough for them, I started taking them straight to the person I was getting dope from. I'd get more dope from them than I would a $40 at the pawn shop. Yeah. Plus, there's a pawn ticket on that, and it's gonna come back to my house, and my parents are gonna find out again.
Yeah.
Not like they don't know anyway.
Right.
So yeah, that 8 years was, we could stay in that 8 years for a long time right here at this table, but I've made amends for a lot of that today.
Ends up kind of being a rerun, though. Like you said, that you get in that cycle. And there's probably a lot that happened, but it's really just it's all one thing in a sense.
It is.
You know what I mean? And you just do the same thing. You just end up being beat up over and over and over again.
Yeah, it is. It is. It was a rough time, man. But yeah. So let's see. So I'm about 18 now, I guess. Before it started getting really, really big into me stealing from mom and dad, like I said, I was taking the little things here and there, and they started picking up on that. So me and another buddy started going out and getting money other ways, taking other people's shit. But there was too much risk in that. I went to jail off that, and I'm a little dude and I'm scared. You know what I mean? At this time, I'm full of fear. So when I went to jail for the first time,
About how old?
I was fresh. I was 18.
Really? When you went to jail?
Yeah. I was JCYC for truancy beforehand. Probably 13 to 17-ish. I was in and out of JCYC for little petty shit.
And the whole crack thing began about what age?
About 16.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just kind of time framing up, and I always say in here, these time frames don't mean a lot usually, but for whatever reason, I'm interested in this particular one.
Yeah, about 16 is when all that started, man. And
so by 18, you're spending time in jail for stealing.
18, I'm in jail for stealing, bad checks, speeding tickets that weren't paid, just little petty shit. But I didn't like it, And my dad had a friend who was a lawyer, So a lot of this shit I never got consequences for a lot of this. It was like a smack on the wrist and I'm right back out. You got time on the shelf. See you later. And that's how it went for a long time. Like a lot of court appearances were in and out.
Yeah.
For me. A couple overnighters here and there for whatever, but ultimately I wouldn't have any consequences for anything I was doing. So hell, it was working for me, I thought, I'm getting my money, I'm robbing it from you and taking it from them and still getting mine and not getting in trouble. That blew up for me for a long time, man. Like I said, if it wasn't welded to the floor, I was taking it. It didn't matter if it was yours, theirs, his, it didn't matter. I was taking it. So 18, in and out of jail. Things were rough at home. Fighting, arguing, because I didn't have it, and when I'd ask for it, I wouldn't get it. So I'd have to wait till they went to sleep, army crawl in the bedroom, take it out of Dad's pocket, creep in the garage when they were gone. They had deadbolts on their bedroom doors.
Wow.
They had deadbolts on the closet doors.
And they still allowed you to live there.
And yeah, they had deadbolts on the garage. They still allowed me to live there. That's the kicker. They allowed me to live there, man, the whole time. And today, I look back and I realize they were my biggest enablers, for sure. I should have been homeless a long time ago, man.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly a very interesting phenomenon that happens there about our people who love us the most and we do the most damage to. For whatever reason, can't do what would really be the best for us.
Yeah.
which would be saying, you can't stay here anymore, brother.
Yeah,
And
well,
create consequences for us.
Yeah, they threatened it. Like, I mean, there's hundreds of times where it was,
the threats don't mean
we're
nothing.
kicking
It's
your
the
ass
real.
out.
It's kind
Get
of
the
like,
fuck out of my house.
I threatened to get sober a lot of times, but until I took
Sure.
some action,
Yeah,
and
right.
they threaten to kick you out until they take some action. They really know. Family members have that unique spot to be able to create consequences for people.
Yeah.
They're really about the only ones that can actually create those. That can. Somebody said if you could give a new guy anything. If you could give him anything, what would it be? If you had a magic wand and a guy said something about, I would give him the gift of desperation. And and families can actually help to create that.
Yeah.
By saying, "You're out. I'm stopping. You're done.
Yeah.
I'm calling the cops on you. You just stole from me. You're going to jail. I am not. Nope. I'm not paying for your lawyer this time."
Yeah. And that's where, and they threaten that too.
But they love us, man, and that's the thing. And that's, I certainly don't want to make that sound like I have, because I haven't been in those shoes myself.
Yeah.
And my parents did the same thing for me by knowing some people, by my parents knowing some people and having a little money from to our lawyer. I got out of most of my trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I skated.
Which worked at the time.
Yeah.
It worked for me at the time.
Yep. And I would actually set stuff down for periods of time. Usually I walked the line for a little while.
See, yeah.
That period would vary.
Yeah.
Like my first DUI when I was 16, and mom and dad helped me out on that one, I wanted a driver's license back. I'd just gotten it, and that was important back then.
Sure.
And so I walked the line in order to get my driver's license back and stayed, for the most part,
sure,
in between the lines.
Sure, yeah. My walk in the line would just be trading one thing for another.
Yeah, I wasn't going to drink anymore, but this is not about smoking pot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I went from smoking crack to just drinking now. We're going to drink some beers with Dad because it's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It's socially acceptable.
Yeah, we're going to build that relationship back because we're going to drink together. And once you get 3 or 4 beers in you, I'm going to hit you up for $20 so I can go get a bag.
Yeah.
Which is how it worked out for a long time. And Mom and Dad were always the cool parents, of the neighborhood. Like growing up, all the little kids would be over at the house with their bikes for Dad to fix them. Air the tires, fix the chain, whatever.
Yep.
And that was the same when we were 18, 20, however old we were. Like, it was always the same. Like, we were the cool house. All the kids would come over and get their stuff fixed, and then it turned into, I was smoking and drinking, so they were like, you're going to do it here. So we know you're okay, you know. Let's see. Yeah, that's how life was for a while, man. I'm gonna try to keep it on my story. My brother, let's see, me and my girl, okay, when she moved back, she was in Shelby County. So we got an apartment here in Middletown, directly across from Eastern High School, actually, in those apartments. Had our first daughter. My brother, he'd grown up, obviously, a little bit. He was probably 8 at the time. Would want to come over and spend the night, which was cool. We're building that relationship, that bond back. But I was, in and out of the bedroom doing my thing until he started coming banging on the door. And I was back there snorting coke. It was back there too long, and he was 8 years old in the living room watching TV by himself. He came back there one day at 8 years old, and I had this little one-hitter keychain for pot, and I packed it up and handed it to him. I thought it'd be funny, or whatever I thought at the time. And that's the first time he smoked pot was when he was 8, and that was by my doings. And today he's out there today, but that's something that I need to deal with on my own. Me and my sponsor and my higher power need to deal with that one.
Yeah, I mean,
So
ultimately it gets right back into that other thing, I gotta walk my walk and let them have their journey,
Yeah.
whatever that journey is.
For sure. So after let's see. So he was smoking. I was, again, kind of like my parents were my biggest enabler. I was his biggest enabler. I mean, I can see this now growing up, or now looking back at when we were growing up, is a lot of his firsts were because of me, were with me.
Yep.
It's like, okay, here, try this. Hey, test that, and it turned into him and I building a relationship eventually.
Around that.
Right, that we never had, though. It was like, okay, we've got this bond now. We've got this bond for him and I, and it started with drugs. It ended with drugs. But it started with drugs, but we weren't just hanging out at that time just for drugs and alcohol. We would hang out and do stuff. Like, we would just do stuff as he was growing up. Which turned into just for drugs. Obviously, it's how it always works. Always got worse, man. Progressively got worse from day one. It got to the point with my drinking when I was probably 18, 19, still working up at the cafe. My buddy down the street that I said earlier that saw me out shooting basketball, we became real good friends. We both washed dishes at the cafe. It got to the point where we'd get a fifth on the way to work and stick it on the dish machine and have that fifth going within 8 hours, just between him and I, which, was at the end of the couple months, it was like, okay, this fifth isn't cutting it no more. So we moved up to a half gallon, very old Barton every night. We get off work at midnight, go back to his place, play cards, drink another half gallon, playing cards, smoking pot. I'd come home, do coke, do it all again the next day, and that went on for a long time too. That went on for years. There were many nights that I stumbled home, covering one eye, walking a half a block down the street, not knowing how I got home, and it was tough, man. It was tough. That time period of my life was a big blur. The whole lot of drinking, whole lot of smoking pot. And at the time, I didn't know that he was as deep into things as he was either. So I would do mine on the side at home and do what was acceptable with them. I would smoke pot and drink with them and go home and smoke crack and do cocaine all night. And I come to find out he did the same things I did. So we started doing the same things together.
Yeah.
So let's see, I was 18, 19, 21. That went on forever, man. Jesus, that went on for a long time. Until 2005. By 2005, I had all three of my daughters. In and out of CCC, in and out of court systems, in and out of everything, man. In and out of them so much to the point to where it got into family court. My lifestyle got into family court because I was on HIP. They're coming over, seeing the house the way it was. Just whatever sparked the family courts things it did. Ended up going to court for a couple years over family court things, and they kept giving me the benefit of the doubt. They kept giving me this leniency. You're going to have to piss in a cup if you want to keep your kids. And I would, I forgot to go make this meeting, or I couldn't get in, or whatever excuse I could come up with so I could keep doing mine. And I did that for a long time, man, a couple years, until they got tired of it. We went into court. And again, I remember this vividly, dude. They kept giving us chance after chance. You can clean up, get a job, do right, do what you're supposed to do, basically, is what they were telling me. And I couldn't do it. I could not do it because of that parasite. That parasite had me. We were at our last family court date to where they were going to make a decision of whether we keep our kids or they take our kids. I'd been up for a couple days smoking and snorting coke and drinking and anything I could do to make things better, I thought. And throughout the time, man, I had a job. my bills were paid. I was working, food in the fridge. The kids were taken care of. So why y'all bothering me? You know, what the hell's wrong with you people? So the last court date, they wanted me to come in clean. They wanted me to come in with my my paperwork from, I guess it was JDAC at the time, saying that I had enrolled myself in the treatment program, an outpatient treatment program at that, and I couldn't do because I didn't want to. It tampered with my time to do me. So I didn't even bother. I got the papers from the courts and just tossed them in a drawer in the garbage or wherever they went. I have no idea. So I've been up a couple days, had a little bit left, went to court. The judge asked, and I remember she asked me specifically, she said, okay, where's your drug test papers and where's the paperwork from JDAC saying that you have signed up for this outpatient? Oh, crap, I must have left it at home. So I had my kid's mom's brother take me back home because I knew there was a bag there. It wasn't because of the papers. I knew there was a bag there. You know, I left my last line on my dresser, and I wanted to go back and do it because my buzz was wearing off. You know, this is the last court date to get whether I keep my kids or not. You know, and that's the only thing I could think of was getting that last one.
Again.
And that's what I did. That's what I did. He took me home. I went in, told him wait right there. Went in, did my last line, fumbled around for a second, came back out and said, I can't find the papers that I knew weren't there. We went back to court empty-handed once again, and that judge slammed the gavel down and said, your kids are gone, buddy. You know, you no longer have custody of your kids. And this was in 2005, 2006. So that makes my oldest 5 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and my youngest, she was maybe a year, maybe. And when they slammed that down, man, and thank God for my kid's aunt. Thank God for their mom's sister, man, because she took the kids. And mom and dad would have taken them. Dad had just been diagnosed with cancer. So mom and dad had a lot going on. And they just physically, emotionally could not handle 3 babies. So their aunt took them. And I, again, man, this breaks my heart. It's one of the first times I've mentioned this, but coming out of the courtroom to put the kids in her car. And my oldest was she was asking, how long are we staying? It was just a few days. You know, we're going to come back and get you. You're just going to stay with Aunt Tracy for a little bit. We'll come back and get you in a couple days. And the baby would not let go. We had to have one person on each side of me to pull her arms off my neck to get her off of me, to put her in that car. And that still hurts, man.
Yeah, man.
That still hurts bad.
Yeah.
And again, man, it was like, okay, I knew we weren't coming back in a couple days to get them. You know what I mean? Like, I knew that. Shit, we both knew that at the time. But whatever we could tell them to get going is what we told them, you know, at that time. And that was freedom for me. You know, as shitty as that sounds, man, like, I love my kids with more than anything. And I did then too. I just didn't care at that time because I cared about myself more. I cared about what I was doing a lot more. And that today has affected them in huge ways, but we'll get to that. So 2005, 2006, Tracy had the kids. From the day we left that courtroom until a couple years ago, it was no holds bars for me. Didn't care what you had, didn't care how I did it. I wanted it, and I wanted to make all this go away. I wanted to make this better. Like I said, 2005, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. He went into remissions for a few years, and the cancer came back. I remember, and mom and dad were living in, they moved to an apartment. I was staying in their house that I grew up in. Again, it was a free-for-all at that time, you know. I didn't have kids. I didn't have responsibility. I didn't have anything. So I was getting my money, whether it had been from working, whether it had been from stealing, whatever. all mom and dad stuff, all dad's stuff was still in that garage. You know what I mean? Throughout this time, so it was a free for all, man. Whatever the dope man wanted, here, come. It's like an auction. Come get it. What are you gonna give me for that? What are you give me for that? It was like that, man. And I ended up tricking off everything in that garage.
Wow.
I mean, welders, compressors, every craftsman tool, everything. You know, coin collections. I'm just everything that they had accomplished and everything that they had accumulated over their lifetime. I fucking sold it for dope.
Yeah.
You know, everything. And they didn't know, supposedly. In my eyes, they didn't know because they weren't there, you know? Or somebody broke into the garage. Every excuse you can imagine, dude. I don't know what happened to it. You handed it to me, and 10 minutes later it was gone. I don't know what happened to it, you know? So Dad was in remission for... He had cancer. He was in remission for a few years. I guess in 2008 or 2009, the cancer came back. They did a biopsy on his lung. After they did that biopsy, it went haywire. And within months, he was gone. But I remember when I was taking my dope man down to Park Hill, and my mom called me, and she said Dad's cancer came back. And I had him in the car and taking him down there so I can get a free bag because I was broke because I already spent all my money with him. Mom called me and said Dad's cancer came back. They found a spot on his eye, on his eyeball. I couldn't even go to the hospital. I was already, you know what I mean? I was on a mission. I was on a mission, man. Another spree. And I finished that spree before I even called him back, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to that same, all those things we talk about. Powerlessness.
Dude, so
selfish,
weak,
self-centeredness,
everything.
All that, yeah.
All that, dude. And even at that time, like, I remember it hurt. It killed me when she told me that. You know what I mean? Like, my dad was my best freaking friend, dude.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, growing up, we did everything together. He always involved me. He was always part of the garage, playing on the CB, you know, pissing truckers out, whatever. Like, I was always a part of all that. Dad was my best friend. And that
but I don't
crushed
like
me,
to
man.
feel feelings.
Yeah, that crushed me, dude. I remember crying in the car with the dope man next to me, you know, after I hung up, but didn't have that strength to say, you know what, get the hell out of my car. I've got more important shit to do than get high.
Like I said, I don't want to feel my feelings.
No.
And I had one tool for not feeling feelings, and that was to use.
That's exactly it. Suppress it, make it go away. And something I forgot, man. In 2005, the guy that I first smoked pot with, he hung himself in my garage.
Oh my God! In your garage?
In my garage.
In Mom and Dad's?
Yeah, Mom and Dad's garage. Yeah, because I didn't have anything. Nothing was mine. We were. Yeah.
You found him out there?
I did. I'd spoke to him 15 minutes before he did it. Me and my kid's mom were arguing about him staying there. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. We were arguing about him staying there. He walked outside. You know, we were in there cooking breakfast and arguing, whatever. He walked outside. I went out to get him. Told him breakfast was done, and he was strung up with speaker wire and rafters in my garage.
So y'all were telling him he couldn't live there anymore, there was some arguments about him being there anymore.
Yeah. Her and I were arguing because she didn't want him there, and I did.
To some extent, maybe it was he, and I know this is all judgment again, it's just that he, because he wasn't wanted, that was he would check out, maybe.
Yeah.
Or, you don't want me around here.
He had a lot of other issues going on. He'd been in and out of U of L. He'd been suicide. I mean, he just had a lot of things going on in his head.
Yeah.
That he didn't let all of it out to anybody.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't say that would be the only thing that was going on. I just mean like the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I held myself responsible for that for a long time.
Yeah. Even though you were the one who was wanting him to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. I could have done more, should have done more type deals, you know.
Yeah.
Should have kicked her out instead, you know, is one of those things.
Yeah.
Our relationship had been over for years anyway, you know, it meant emotionally it had been over for years.
fact of the matter is, I'm not so sure we're capable of being in relationships in this day and age at that age anyway. You know what I mean?
Man.
I think about what a kid I was. I mean, like how much, because I don't really feel like I really don't feel like I grew up till I got sober at 45.
Yeah.
I look back and go, wow, hold on. I've been acting like a kid all my life.
Yeah. Dude, my youngest is almost 17 now.
Yeah.
By that time we'd already been pregnant with my oldest. So it's like,
in my late teens and early 20s.
A blur.
Yeah, I was a kid. I was a child. I did childish things.
Yeah.
I wanted to show you as an adult. If you looked at me, I looked like a growed up.
Mm-hmm.
I surely wasn't acting like it.
Definitely not. I wasn't either, bud. Yeah. So, yeah.
Damn,
best friend.
I can't imagine. I just can't. I had some friends commit suicide when I was young. And when I say young, the first one I remember, I'm relatively certain I was driving age. I think I was 16 years old, and my friend John, one of the first guys I ever smoked pot with, I heard he had shot himself. And again, if I knew, I was going to have to tell, but I didn't know what that was back then, But I knew John was a little off his rocker. I knew that. His dad was a big-time alcoholic. And by big time is what I mean is it impacted me.
Okay, right.
I don't know what he was or he wasn't, but you didn't want to be around John's house when his dad was on one of his tears because he was just a jerk, man, and you just dodged John's dad all the time. And and of course I didn't find him. That wasn't. I mean, I was shocked enough just to know one of my friends had checked out. Let alone to actually find them, and then to looking back and looking over some other ones, wow,
bless you.
Right out of the blue, coronavirus, watching some other friends check out, and now today realizing what that was what the disease of alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's actually what killed these people.
Yeah,
and I know that today.
Yeah. That's a fact.
And
that's a fact.
The levels of it. A lot of people think it's got to be like, you have to be a down and out drunk. No. How old was your friend? About just approximately early 20s?
25, I guess.
Middle
when
20s?
He did it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
25.
the disease probably really hadn't progressed to the level it was going to.
Yeah.
Or it did in some of us. But still, it got him and took him out of the ball game.
Yeah, it almost claimed me shortly after that.
It did it? Wow.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I remembered that, and I'm glad you just touched on that. Let's see. So 2005, Dad got cancer, lost the kids. Best friend hung himself, cut him out of my garage. 2005 was a rough year for me. Me and kid's mom were definitely going through. It was the end of ours. I've been with her since 6th grade. You know what I mean? That was my one and only at the time. I thought, got 3 kids with her. We're going to be this forever, because that's what mom and dad had.
Right.
I wanted that. I wanted that bond that my mom and dad had, and I thought that I had it. And it turns out that I didn't know what the hell I knew. I didn't know what the hell I wanted when I was 16, obviously, So once all that happened, I'm not sure. The disease is what compelled me to do it. I know exactly what compelled me. I don't know what transpired throughout the few weeks of prior to what happened. I guess everything piled on myself. The depression, everything just kind of set in like, holy shit, I'm a deadbeat. I'm a piece of shit. I'm a bad, all these things, bad son, bad dad, no dad. All this shit just piled in. Dad's got cancer. Best friend's dead. Girls leave. All these things put that thought in my head. You know what? You ought to just do it too. You ought to just do it too. And I tried. I tried, man. And that's something that I've never spoke about either. I went out in the garage, grabbed an extension cord, strung it up in a tree. Wrapped it around my neck, jumped off a chair, and the fucking cord broke. Don't know why. I mean, I know why now, but the cord broke and my ass and my back was sore for almost a month. And thank God for that. Thank God for that weak spot in that cord, or thank God for that God who cut that cord that day. because I don't know why, but I was ready. I was done. I was checking out.
I don't know. I guess they're all weird. It's interesting about like what we choose, the method.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang myself with an extension cord.
At 2 o'clock in the afternoon in my backyard.
Did he use an extension cord?
He used speaker wire.
Speaker wire.
Yeah, a little thin ass speaker wire. So I was, sure as shit, this cord's going to do it, Yeah. So from 2005 on, still smoking crack, still doing coke, still drinking, still smoking pot, selling coke to get more coke, to get more alcohol, to completely quit working. It was taking too much time out of my disease. It was taking too much time from what I wanted to do. Tracy still got the kids. At first, I was seeing them pretty much whenever I wanted. We could go see them, stay the night there. They could come stay the night with us, whatever, for the most part, freely. Again, no consequences, man. You know what I mean? I got a full-time babysitter. I can do what I want, have party. I can do what the hell I want. This is great. You know what I mean? It's 18, 19 years. This is fucking awesome. Got kids, but I've got a babysitter, an in-house, out-of-the-house babysitter. That came to an end, and thank God for her. I was pissed at her, and that's another amends that I need to make, is with her. I hated her for a long time because she wouldn't allow me to see my kids because I have that right. They're mine, and I deserve to see them, right? I got them taken away because I wanted to get high and drink and do all these things I wanted to do, but I deserve to see my kids when I want. She thought otherwise, and I'm glad she did at the time because I was in no position, nothing. So she stopped that. She stopped even phone calls for a while, for a couple years. For a few years, she stopped even phone calls from coming through, man. She stopped all the phone calls from coming through, from me to them to me, whatever. I couldn't call them. I ended up manipulating that to where my mom would get them. She would call to get the kids, and I would go to mom's to see the kids, or mom would just go get them and drop them off to me so I could see the kids. Like I said, my mom and dad were my biggest enablers. They would help me get to the bottom of whatever I needed to get to, no matter what. And we did that for quite some time, until all that stopped too. To where Tracy wouldn't even give them to my mom, because of me.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I caused my mom not to be able to see the kids because of my own selfish bullshit. And I never let the kids see me get high. I'm not going to say I never got high in front. I never let the kids see me get high or use or drink or anything like that. Like, they saw me drink a beer or whatever, but they never saw me get trashed, like, directly in front of them. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't go get trashed and then go get them, but you know what I mean? I never, because I was a good guy or whatever.
It's interesting that we have to say that too, I mean, I don't, I'd like to think I didn't, but I know the truth of the matter was that I will know what I did.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could sit here and say that. I don't know. There was times when that parasite had me, and I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I was bucked out, but I think there's some like suppression maybe or something there where I wouldn't. But I would try not to.
Yeah, right.
I was trying to walk a line to where I was hoping to protect them, and I think that's probably bullshit. I was probably hoping to protect me. Didn't have anything to do with them.
That's a fact. So the kids have obviously seen me go to jail plenty of times throughout the course of them living with their aunt and coming to visit me, and still I get locked up for some bullshit that I did before.
Right, yeah. And that's exactly my point, like, I didn't get loaded. Now, I went to jail a bunch, and they saw me, and
but they watched the cops come in.
It's got that same energy around it, about, like, in AA meetings, we're not, it's different a little bit, but we're not supposed to talk about drugs, okay? Let's just put that out there. I know that's up for debate, but I'm not going to, and so, like, you'll hear a speaker, and I've stole this from somebody else that will apologize because drugs are a part of my story. Mm-hmm. So I'm apologize up front, let you know drugs are part of my story, and then go on to talk about beating up their wives. you know, and don't apologize for that being part of the story, you know, but I'm gonna apologize for, you know, so it's a little bit, you know, that whole energy. And this is like, to me, this is the disease at its most cunning and baffling, that will tell me it's pertinent that I didn't let my kids see me get high, but they saw me. They really didn't. That made very little difference, because they saw me going to jail, and they saw me. Did you just say they was there when cops come in with guns out?
Yeah, and
I don't mean to throw that heavy, but you know what I mean. That's just from like the outsider's perspective. It's interesting that, because I know I still have alcoholism. It's still in there.
Sure,
it will always be.
Sure,
you know, and it will still skew my perception to what, how I put things in a hierarchy on the impact to others.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Do you think they'd been any more impactful if they saw you snort a line?
Fucking joint or
smoking?
Something?
Yeah. And then the cops coming in at gunpoint.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah. But yeah, I was a good guy. I was a good dad. You know what I mean? Like, they're provided for.
I take care of my kids.
They're provided for, and they don't see me doing drugs and shit. You know, they just see cops come in and lay me on the floor at gunpoint.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's all right, kids. It's
not
okay.
bad. It's their fault.
Dad'll be back in just a month or so.
Yeah. Yeah. The impact. Yeah.
It's funny we can laugh about it today. You know, that book says that, but we're not a glum lot, you know, and we tell some of the most horrible things we've done that are not really funny. But the reason it's funny now to me is how fucking insane it was that I actually participated in that and thought it was okay. I really, to some extent. I mean, I didn't think getting arrested was okay, but it was just kind of one of those one of these things, man. It's no different if it started raining out there right now.
Yeah.
You know. Hey, it is what it is, brother.
Man, I couldn't tell you how many times I said that one. It is what it is. You know, fuck it. Let's go. I'll be out in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Couple months, whatever. Yeah, man, that justification it's
rationalization and justification.
Boy, it's a monster in its own. Because, okay, so we're right around me being 21, 22-ish.
Damn. So 3 kids by the time you're this age, and you're already in this much trouble.
Completely full flight, man.
Is Dad gone?
No, not yet. He's got cancer.
Because I know you said he passed not too awful long after all this went down, and I kind of a little bit got again.
Yeah, he had colon cancer. Like I said, went away for a little bit and came back. So kids have seen me go to jail numerous times, and that shit got old with them going back telling their aunt, I guess, you know, of things. Man, maybe they weren't. I don't know. Either way, their aunt cut me off for seeing them for a while, and I was pissed. Again, though, wasn't pissed enough. I wasn't hurt enough to stop doing the things I was doing.
Yeah, to change anything.
Nothing.
I just wanted my way.
Yeah, if I was going to, the only thing I changed was added something else to the roster. Rather than taking things off of it, I was adding more to it. So by this time, I've realized that I don't like seeing the birds or hearing the birds waking me or waking up in the morning, and me being awake to hear them start chirping in the morning. So I'm popping Xanax on top of drinking, on top of smoking, to try to mellow out, to try to level back out to where I can maintain throughout the day. So I'll fast forward a little bit. So a few years go by. Let's see, 21 to 28 or so. I picked up a hell of an opiate habit. With Dad having cancer, he was getting prescribed pretty much any pill he wanted at any time he wanted. It wasn't like you have this amount to last you 30 days. It was you have this amount. You fucking run out, you call us. We'll get you more. It didn't matter if it was an hour. It didn't matter if it was a month. You know?
There was a time before they locked down where that stuff was pretty freely prescribed. There was not really any limits, and they were giving people lots of it.
Lots. Lots. When the cancer came back in his eye, after they did the biopsy, apparently he had a tumor on his rib, in between his ribs, that was growing, spreading his ribs apart, and they couldn't do anything about it. He had one on his shoulder. He just had these cancer tumors just kind of took over from the neck down. And they couldn't do anything about them because they were either in between bones, on bones, behind bones. It was just, they're in rough spots for the doctors to do anything. So their thing was to keep him out of pain at all cost. And he had pain pills I've never even heard of before.
Yeah. You were stealing them.
Well, I was manipulating. I didn't steal them yet. I was manipulating. Dad, if you do them this way, they're going to last a lot better. They're going to hit you a lot harder if you snort them. So me and Dad started snorting pills together. And again, manipulation, man, was my way to get mine without having to steal from him. He's sick. I'm not going to steal from him now. I do have some sort of a heart, still at this point.
Yeah. So really, you were just stealing them right in front of him.
Exactly.
You were stealing them with him.
Yeah, stealing them with him. Yep, that's it. Because I knew when he ran out, all he had to do was make a phone call.
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay for him. I didn't have to steal nothing for him. Fuck it. You know what I mean? It was okay. So that opiate addiction was chaotic. It was chaotic. He had every kind of Oxycontin they may had on the market. I think the only ones he didn't have, and I think I've never seen them, I've only heard of them, is the blue ones, the 160s or 180s. I've never seen them. But he had 40, 60, 80s. He had morphines all the way up to 120s. Percocet, Vicodin, he had everything. Which meant I had everything at the time. So we did that until 2010. And Dad had quit, for the most part, quit drinking by this time. When they found out he had cancer, he pretty much just pulled the plug on everything he had going on except for family, which was awesome. I look back at it today like that. That's really, it shows some strength. It shows a lot. Character shows a lot from my dad. So we did this until 2010. Which is when he passed away. And I've got a full-blown opiate addiction, along with alcohol, and I quit smoking crack by this time, thank God. But the pills and the pills of every sort, ecstasy, whatever, it didn't matter. Primarily opiates at this time, opiates and alcohol, for probably the 5 years.
That's my favorite combination. Opiates and alcohol.
Yeah, and I
didn't like one without the other.
Yeah, no, couldn't do it. It made no sense. It made no sense to do one without the other.
I couldn't drink anymore without them. Really.
Yeah,
it just didn't work.
They
I could take pills without drinking.
They went hand
to go to
in
work
hand.
and things like that.
They went hand in hand for me.
But once I started drinking. And of course, I wanted to drink. I just never, and I had to be careful about that because that's another one of these justifications saying I never really drank at work. I didn't like get drunk.
Yeah.
I'd need a beer at lunchtime once in a while.
Yeah.
And obviously showed up with the remnants of last night on me more times than not, for sure.
For sure.
I seen there was a line the other day in a song I heard, and he said, "Can't remember the last time I've been sober. Half the time I was drunk, and the other half I was hungover."
That pretty much nails it. Makes sense. So yeah, this opiate addiction, man, took off, and once Dad started, he was getting his scripts refilled every couple weeks. For his pain pills, because we all three were doing them. Myself, him, and my brother. Like, we were all three doing them. So those pills, those 190, 160 pills were going like that.
Yep.
And the pharmacy and his doctor was, I guess, okay with it for a while. But then they started cutting back just a little bit. These doctors we think are stupid aren't that stupid, I don't guess. But
that's a lot of pain medication to be going through for one dude.
A whole lot. When they gave him his pills, they'd give them to him in a Kroger, in a paper bag, a big paper bag.
Yeah.
He had so many damn prescriptions at one time. It was was a lot, a whole
So
lot.
I guess
of pills.
when at some point when he passed, the gavel slammed, right?
It did, real hard, right on my face. And yeah, when he passed away,
Because like you said, the pharmacies are. You think we think they ain't that smart or that dumb, but when somebody has passed,
yeah, they know.
that,
They know.
that's the end of the script.
Yeah. So what pills he had left? I saw my mom at a weak point. You know what I mean? Here's that addiction kicking in, that parasite kicking in, man. I saw my mom at a weak point, and I finessed her out of what pills he had left.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing I could do at the time for my mom. You know what I mean? Is get more. That I'm telling you, man. Like I was completely full flight, man. Completely full flight for the longest friggin' time.
With that old saying that we've been kicking around in here, one's never enough, or
One's too many, thousand's never enough.
yeah, there you go.
That's
yeah.
it.
So it doesn't make any difference how big that bottle is.
Shit, no. There's a bottom to it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna hit that bottom. I stayed, and at Dad's, even at the funeral, the ashes, everything, man. Some of Dad's ashes were spread, and it's an honor to be there. At Churchill Downs in the Winter Circle, is where we had his service, where we had his service to spread his ashes. And again, man, instead of me cherishing that and showing the appreciation for Churchill, for the church service, for everything, all I could do is stay fucked up. Just stay wasted, to try to numb me from what just happened or what's going to happen or whatever. And once Dad passed, man, I hit that big red button real hard with the biggest hammer I could find. Didn't give a shit about nothing at that point. Nothing. That opiate addiction got me 7 of my felonies that I caught in 2011. Went to prison at that time for the first time. And when I got out of prison, I had made the decision and wholeheartedly meant it that I'm done. I'm cleaned up. I'm done. I've kicked this heroin addiction that I had. The opiates ran out. I couldn't get, so I started doing heroin. All those things I never said I'd never do, never stick a needle, never smoke. I'm done with all of it, and I wholeheartedly meant that, man.
Did you stay clean in jail, in prison?
I did.
I know that's not a necessity from what I understand.
I did. I tried abuse bar one time and didn't like the way it made me feel at all. And that was right towards the end of my stint in prison. But other than that, man, I stayed clean. Jail, prison, all that. Quit smoking in prison, jail, whatever. Both of them. Quit smoking. Quit doing dope. Vowed away alcohol. Vowed away everything. Got out, went to a couple meetings. I was on parole when I got out. PO gave me the papers. Went to a couple meetings to appease the PO. And I really wanted something different by this time. In prison, I had time to reflect on my life and realize that I'd gotten nowhere. In 30-something, I haven't gotten nowhere in 32 years. It's like, dude, you have nothing. You have no kids. You have nothing to show for yourself. No house, no job, no nothing. It's time to do something different, man. And I really wanted to. And I did for about a month when I got out of prison. And then it was right back where I left off. I got bored. And that was the only excuse, man. I got bored. So I went right back to what I knew. I went right back to what I knew, man, and right back to jail again, and dude, it was a revolving door. Go back to what you know, go back to jail, go back to what you know, go back to jail. And that went like that for probably 4 or 5 years still. It wasn't until this last time in 2000 I guess it was the middle of 2018. I'd picked up a meth addiction by this time because I traded off all the opiates because I'm never going to detox off heroin again, so I'm just going to do ice. And that was my big game plan after that month I was out of prison. because it's out of your system in 3 days. I can piss clean for the PO. I had it all planned out, all figured out. PO wasn't pissing me until that last time. I went in there and he changed my PO on me. Went in there and he's like, "Can you pee?" Sure. I went back there to pee, and I pulled every card I knew what to pull, man, including calling an ambulance because I can't pee. There's something wrong with me. You know, take me to the emergency room now. I can't pee. Knowing I was going to just explode. So they revoked me. They revoked me middle of 2018. They sanctioned me to county for 14 days. From there, I went to the VOA down on Shelby Street. And when we pulled up...
What does that stand for?
The Volunteers of America. It was... When I got there, it was a 6-month program. And thank God for that 6-month program. Now, from what I understand, it's changed to 90 days per individual. So it's you can go anywhere from a month to 90 days, depending on the individual and their progress.
So they shortened it.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that it wasn't like that when I got there.
It was still a longer term project thing for you.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I needed, and exactly when I needed it. Once again, higher power coming through for me. In that program, man, I gave it about a week of just sitting back and kind of just taking everything in. And I guess I'd been beat up enough by this point, man. I made the decision. I made that choice to actually put forth the work to do something different this time. And I was right where I needed to be. Made some phone calls about a week or two after I got in there. And to my family and told them, hey, the sobriety date y'all thought I had wasn't really it. My real sobriety date is September 22nd. And at this time, I'm still full of fear, so I waited 5 minutes before they cut the phones off. That way, if they started arguing, the phones would get cut off and I wouldn't have to deal with it. But everything went great on the phone, man. They appreciated it. They understood. They accepted. I'm not going to say they understood because I don't think they do. And probably some of them still don't. But they accepted the fact that I was ready. I was honest this time with myself and with everybody else. So I went through the program. 6-month intensive inpatient. I mean, it was IOP 3 times a week, one-on-one counselor, book work 5 to 6 days a week. It was work. It was work, man, but it was work that I needed to get me through this and to get me to where I am today. Going through that program, man, and when I...
So it's an in-house...
It was.
Men's recovery program. Yes. Where you lived there.
Yes.
Did you work?
The first 3 months you were not allowed to when I was there. The second 3 months.
So they had you working there probably? You had chores?
Just chores. Yeah, just a chore list. The second 3 months, the second half of your stint, you still had to see your one-on-one counselor. IOP was cut back to 1 day a week. And you could get a job as long as it was run through the director first. Which was great. It really was, man. In the time, and I had already had court dates set up because, like I said, when I got out of prison, I had a wholehearted decision. I'm going to be done. I'm going to do right. Had court set up for the kids, whatever. We had all that set up, and in December of 2018, and I'd completely forgotten about it until they told me, I had a court date for family court, which was, the last court date to whether I get my kids back or not. And here I sit at the VOA in a recovery center once again, I go to court, talk to the judge, we do our thing or whatever. I go in there with, I can't remember if I had a lawyer or not. I don't think I had a lawyer. Went in there, talked to the judge, and was like, look, this is it. I'm in the VOA. This is where I'm at. I have no business having these kids right now. My mom can't, nobody can take, I can't do it right now. And she told me to give her a few minutes. The judge did. We went out in the hallway, came back in, and the judge looked at me and said, you have sole permanent custody of your kids as of right now. You're allowed to go get them whenever you please. Whenever you and Tracy come up with an agreement to where you can, when it works for her, for you to come back and get them. She said, as of right now, this very moment, you have sole permanent custody of your kids. And I truly believe that's part of this program is the only reason I got those kids back. You know what I mean? The program and the decision, the choice that I made to actually do something different in my higher power, knowing that I was 100% in this time. Like, I'd made that decision. My heart and my mind are actually in tune with each other this time, to do something different, man, and to do right for once. And I got permanent custody of the kids as of right now. They're at my house. And since I completed that program, since I went through that program, everything has just started to fall into place. Like, there's so much that's fallen into place, man. The program showed me that being at the VOA introduced me to meetings again, like to how to do meetings the right way, not just to go in there and to do things I used to do, like go in there and find somebody to cop from, find somebody to bullshit with in the back of the room. They showed me how to do meetings, man. And I loved it. I saw something that I wanted in each of those meetings. And a little bit of that fear each time I went into those meetings went away. The program allowed me and showed me how to talk to people, showed me how to do things like what I'm doing now, showed me how to live life, be a son, be a parent, be a friend even. I have friends today, you know, something I've never had in my life. I feel part of
Real
ones. I looked through my phone the other day and I scroll, and you got to scroll twice because everything in there is AA. You know, that's how I've got everybody listed, so I don't have to search for them. They're all in there. It's so many, dude, and it's like those are legit friends that I know I can call just to shoot the shit with, or if I have a problem, it doesn't matter. They're going to pick up that phone, or they're going to call me right back.
Yeah.
You know, and they're actually going to give me some legit information, you know. Yeah, man, I have friends today, dude, and it's awesome.
You just talked about that. I've spoke about my miracle list that I have, where I've kept notes of these things that have happened to me, for me, whatever you want to say. And I still, I don't have any exceptions to this rule. And I thought that I had a couple of them, but it was because of God's timing was the only reason why that looked like there was an exception to this rule a couple different times where things didn't work out beyond somebody's expectations.
Yeah.
Book says that too, that we'll have a life that'll be beyond what we could ever have imagined. Yeah. And these things that happen like that are exactly that. And I can frankly say today with 100% confidence that to somebody who I'm working with that is new, I can say that, and I can actually guarantee them.
Yeah.
And very few guarantees, and when a guy guaranteed me something early in recovery, he guaranteed me that if I was an alcoholic, he prefaced it with that, of his type. I think if he used that language, if I recall right, that if I would work these 12 steps and implement these principles into my life on a daily basis, my life would get much, much, much better. My immediate thought was that whole guarantee thing. There are no guarantees except for death and taxes, or you can't guarantee me that, sir.
Right.
He also offered me another guarantee, and he guaranteed me that if I truly was an alcoholic of his type, that if I did not do those things, my life was going to get a whole lot fucking worse. Yeah. And I remember him using that F word on me too, because he was a very soft-spoken dude who did not use profanity lightly.
Right.
And when he hammered that at me,
you knew it was serious.
But that was years before my sobriety date. Years before my current sobriety date. But I still remember that. Some people, like you said, there's some events in my life like that, those other things that we talked about earlier that I'll never forget. Yeah. But there's also some things in recovery and some events in recovery that touched me in the same way that I will never forget. And today I can guarantee a person, and I do shy from that. There's still something in me that wants to say, Dan, you can't necessarily guarantee that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I really do think I can. I don't have any evidence to the otherwise right now. Because everyone that I know who has done that has stayed sober. If they truly do, if they work these steps, and then truly implement them on their life the best that they can on a day-by-day basis. And we say we can't do this thing perfect. We understand all that. We're not asking you for that.
Right.
That's not the line that has to be achieved in order to receive these miracles in our lives. If we truly do work these steps and implement these principles in our lives one day at a time, I can guarantee you those results, that these things like getting kids back, escaping jail sentences, saving marriages, saving jobs, or vice versa, getting jobs that would have certainly previously been out of our reach, and if we somehow or another stumbled into reaching them, we certainly wouldn't have kept them very long.
No.
It's another one of those things I always hate for a guy really early in recovery to get the dream job.
Right.
Like, and again, it's not my timing. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
We could hold off on that just a minute, please.
Let
them get down the line just a little bit longer. But this stuff is it does that.
And that's something else.
And so like just and I don't want to put. Well, go ahead. You had something.
That's something else that I've tried to do several times is start my own business, and that's something else that I have today is the landscaping business. But it's done legitimately this time, and it's done for the right reasons. I've got insurance, I've got business license, I've got all these things now that I'm supposed to have to run a business, and it's running. It's doing the thing this time. As to where before I was only doing it to get more of what I wanted, and I wouldn't work unless I had something or if I had a goal to get something. And it's not like that today at all, man. Like I said, I've got the friends, I've got the business, I've got kids, I've got family, I've got a house, I've got cars, I've got everything that I have ever imagined plus some. It's like the sky is the limit of what this program has and can do for me right now if I continue to do the work. Man. And the VOA taught me about the steps, the sponsorship, everything. And I had a sponsor in the VOA and went through the steps in the AA book. And I didn't get the aha at the end of them. I did feel better. I felt a whole lot better about myself. Learned a lot about myself through the 12 steps, going through them with that sponsor. When I got out, after I completed the steps, I felt... I started coming to Spiritual Underground. I felt the wall that they talk about in AA. You'll hit that wall, and they were talking about in the VOA anyway. Like you're gonna feel that you're gonna get to this point where you feel like you hit a wall and you just stopped in your recovery. Like you can't get any further. And I hit that wall, man. Once I got home, after I guess right before my 1 year, I just felt blah about recovery. It was one of those things where I was almost questioning myself, like, did you do it right the first time? Did you go through the steps thorough enough? Were you with the right sponsor? What, all these questions came in, and it was like, shit, I think I could have done better. So I started going to other meetings, different meetings. Is when I found TSSR. I found the TSSR meeting, man, and the first day I walked in that meeting, I shared. And that is so not like me. It was just a few months back when I first shared in SU, in Spiritual Underground. I just didn't like doing that. And these steps, this program has allowed me to be okay with messing up today. I can be okay to fumble words, to screw things up because it's a mistake, and we correct our mistakes. Or I do today. I try not to make them again, but if I do, when I do, it's okay.
Yeah, but like speaking at a meeting, that's not even one you got to correct, right? I mean, if you
it's
screw
not
up, who gives a damn, right? I'm allowed to say some dumb shit if I want to.
Exactly.
If it comes out wrong, then oh well.
Exactly.
Or maybe the flip side of that is maybe just you heard it. That's the other thing about this perception thing.
Yeah.
You probably said exactly what needed to be said. If somebody hears it wrong, that's on them.
And that's it, man. And that's something else. Like if I think about, like, just even this time being sober, like when I think about it, it's like, okay, I want to share this about the topic, and I'm hesitant to raise my hand, but yet I hear the guy next to me share exactly what's in my head, and it's like, damn it, I should have raised my stupid hand. That fear, man, that I'm getting over today, little by little, I'm getting over it.
that timeline, you started coming to Spiritual Underground. Did you not? Because, and let me be careful on this because this gets into this area, but you worked at getting Christopher to sponsor you.
I what?
Worked at it. It was not necessarily, he wasn't necessarily jumping right onto that.
Yeah, no.
Thought.
No.
But you weren't really in it. You weren't really looking to take no for an answer real easy either.
You know,
right? Am I correct in that?
Yes and no. I'm not real sure what I was looking for the night I asked Christopher to sponsor me. Like I said, I know I'd hit a wall. I knew there was more out there. I just didn't know how to get it. And I had been looking at a couple guys throughout over a month or so, but wanted to give my current sponsor the courtesy and appreciation to hand me my 1-year token, because he did get me there. You know what I mean? He did show me how to get there. And I'd spoke to him. But anyway, I was looking at a couple guys, you and Christopher. And I told Christopher that night. You know, he's like, well, why don't you just push up on who you want to talk to? You know, talk to whoever it is that you want to sponsor you and just see what they say. And I just, without thinking, said, I am. And then, you know, we prayed about it and talked about it. And the next day, he did sponsor me, which is when I told him it was either going to be, I was looking at either Dan or yourself. You know, I mean, you. And that's
an honor, man.
That's who I wanted to sponsor me. This is before I even knew Christopher sponsored you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I had no clue who your sponsor was at the time. You know, I just saw what you had. I saw how you carried yourself. I saw how you spoke. I saw all these things about both of you that I was like, damn, out of all 80-something people that were in that room at the time I was there, you guys got what I want, man. And I didn't know how to get it other than what I've been taught, and that's you go after what you want. You want something if you want something somebody has, you follow that person. You get that person's response. You do whatever you got to do to get that.
Yeah, because I kind of thought you said I didn't know what. I felt like there was more, but I didn't know how to get it. But in a sense, you did. You know, or your higher power was taking you there.
Yeah.
You may not have known it yet, but that whole thing about wanting that more, somebody else has used the words, and I stole them too, and it's been attributed to me in Christopher's book. Also, continue to add to our lives the things that which improve the quality of our lives in recovery.
Yeah.
And I know I've heard Bob Earl say that, and I've heard Happy say that too, some add to references. But so that's what you did. You went looking for something to add to, you know, and that's, and that's another premise of this AA book, right? It says continue. That's a huge word. Continue is.
Yes, it is.
And so you continue to seek out, and I think it's vital that we continue to seek out new teachers when you hit those spots where you feeling that there's more, you know, and it's not a knock to the previous teacher, not one bit. Matter of fact, I think it's I love Scott Lee is one of my very favorite people to listen to speaker wise, and I've taken a lot of that, and I know that's had a big influence on the TSSR methodology too. Is Scott Lee's the stuff that he has taught, and the people that brought it to him is that. I hope the people I work with outgrow me spiritually. I pray that they outgrow me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they surpassed me. That's not what I mean by outgrow. Or that they've somehow or another achieved a higher level. It's not a hierarchy thing. Mm-hmm. It's just I've passed on everything I got. Mm-hmm. And they still want more. That really should be every sponsor's goal. Is that their sponsees rise to a point where they need to. I mean, it's not a lot different than the whole thing of like your kids, right?
Yeah.
You don't want your kids staying at home forever.
No.
You want them to outgrow you.
That's right. That's right. Take what I teach you and get more.
Yeah, and then go out and do your own thing.
Yeah, be yourself,
flourish. And then and also give this thing to other people too. It's one of my like I say, and I think I said at the beginning of these ground rules on. I have this list of ground rules that, and my final ground rule is when you get this thing, and you have these tools, and the juice enters your life like this, I am requiring you to go give it away.
Yeah.
That is one of my ground rules. Give this thing away. And then when you do that, the next requirement is you got to share that juice back with me too, because I want to hear about it.
Hell yeah. We're getting close to giving it away.
Yeah.
We're getting close.
Yeah, so you So, like from Christopher's end of things, he wasn't sure if it was a fit, and I hate that, so I'm putting judgment again into words and into people. But he just wasn't sure, and that's Christopher's really careful about who he sponsors. Mm-hmm. He wants to make sure that it's a fit.
Sure.
Yeah, he doesn't just say yes to everybody, and he wasn't sure, but he said he was talking. What he talked about was your tenacity and your desire to get more, and that you were sure that this is where it was at.
Yeah.
And so you stayed persistent in pursuing that avenue, and I don't really know, and again, time-wise about how, because it kind of turns into a blur for me too sometimes, even in recovery. Mm-hmm. Things happen so fast. I have a picture in my mind of the Tasmanian devil. He spins 100 mile an hour and then just stops, right? And then looks around, right? And there's that point of where you become aware for a second.
Yeah.
And that's an analogy to my old life, because I would get up in the mornings like that. Coffee maker, shower. Coffee maker, shower.
Sure.
Clothes, jump in your clothes, out the door. Sure. And like a Tasmanian devil, and that's the way I lived. And I carried that pace all day long. Nowadays I wake up at a slow pace. I wake up, I pray, I do some readings, I meditate for a few minutes, for a little bit. And then I move slowly to whatever is next.
Yeah.
And then I carry that pace, and it's a much better pace for me. Now, if people look at me, they see me going pretty fast, but it's not the fast that used to be, and it's certainly not with that same chaotic energy. Some of the recovery feels the same way, in a way, if things go by as a blur, and so much is going on, and life is so full, and then I stop once in a while and kind of survey the landscape. And so what I was getting at here is that the whole timeline, as far as like you come into Spiritual Underground, and I remember, just say the first name of your previous sponsor.
Jeff.
I remember him coming to the Spiritual Underground and giving you your 1 year token. Mm-hmm. And so there was after that, obviously, that before you started getting with Christopher, I guess, and started coming to TSSR after that.
Well, I had already been going to TSSR
before the 1 year.
Well, no, it was at my 1 year, because my first token in TSSR was September 21st.
Oh, really?
It was.
So you came to your first TSSR meeting
the Thursday after the 27th, whatever day it was. It was in September. It was into September is my first token in TSSR.
Okay,
so it was right after my 1 year.
Okay, so you came to TSSR and started coming to those meetings and investing yourself there about that time frame, and that was about someplace not too far after that is when you picked up Christopher as a sponsor.
Very shortly after that. Yeah.
Are you? I know you. You're in amends. I know that.
Yeah,
you've been doing some amends.
Yeah,
so you're out into
step 10 now. Step 10. Still working amends. Still got a lot of amends to do.
And you're reading now the TSSR book.
I am, and that book has widened everything about recovery for me. I don't know if it's the way that Christopher worded things in the book, or if it's just my way of understanding things, but that book has opened my eyes to so much more. It has helped not only me by me working the steps out of it, but it has helped everything about my life. Before but
that book had 3 goals, and this is me. This is not him. One was to offer these tools to people who it wasn't accessible to because they didn't have the traditional 12-step isms.
Right.
2 was to offer this to guys who have been traditional in fellowships and wanted more. And I have forgotten what the third one is, but you're one of the guys that falls into that spot.
Most definitely.
Of where you'd been through and got some traction and stuff, but was looking for something more. And
I found
TSSR offered you an avenue to, again, add to the quality of your life in recovery.
Definitely.
Or continue to improve your conscious contact.
That's it. The AA book gave me my foundation of this new way of life.
And there's obviously, and I will say, there's nothing in the TSSR stuff that's contradictory at any level to the 12-step philosophy. It's exactly in alignment. It's a broadening and adjunct to those philosophies. It's just I like that whole thing where I say, one of my big ones is in the 4th step of when we do a resentment inventory, and I broaden my definition of what a resentment is.
Yeah.
because if I just go by that book there, it tells me to write down everybody I'm angry with, and a lot of things get slipped through the cracks.
Absolutely.
Because I can talk myself out of thinking that I'm angry,
And
it doesn't. That actually took some effectiveness out of a 4-step if I only limit it to what's angry. So then, in a lot of areas of all these 12-step principles, if I broaden the definition,
and that's
I can broaden my horizons in my recovery.
That's what happened with me doing the steps. They're the same steps, like you were saying. They're exact same steps from both books. And doing my first 4-step out of the AA book, I had, a half a page of people, and a half a page, like 12 resentments, and it was like, hold on. When I did them out of the TSSR book, I've got 90 something, and it's like, wow. Like you said, man, it's the whole way of just just broadening the definition, man. Helped me tremendously.
And I had to do the same kind of thing in a sense, and I see that, and it's just a journey. And I don't, some people would look at it with a little bit different. And I shouldn't take out on that either, because that isn't, again, a judgment. But the first time I used to talk about an analogy of like cleaning out a horse stall. First time I go over with a pitchfork and I grab the big patties up and chuck them in the wheelbarrow and clean them out. And later on I come in and maybe take the hay and some of the other and grab some more out. And that's kind of like different journeys through the steps. I get some big turds out of the way early on.
Yeah.
And that frees me up to actually open myself up to a little deeper dive. And, it's the whole peeling of the onion concept. And then before long I'm in there with a broom and
tidying
sweeping up
Yep.
and getting everything out of the corners and stuff. And then maybe at some point I'm in there mopping.
Hell yeah.
And I continue to clean that slate so that I have because as long as I'm carrying, get back that analogy of that dirty garbage can on backpack straps that I carried around all my life, and everything good or bad or everything that I did, I throwed in that garbage can. And just like the bad apple philosophy, when I throwed something stinky in that garbage can, it kind of coated everything that was good. And then my can ended up getting full, and I call that my bottom. That's when the can got full.
Yeah.
And when I walked around, I could smell it all the time. So that was my self-esteem. I felt like I was stinky and dirty. Felt like there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And secondary to that, when I came around you, I figured you could smell it too.
Yeah.
And so then I didn't want to come around you and carry my stinky shit around. And by working the steps, I got with a sponsor and I dumped my garbage can out on the floor and we sorted through it. And we got rid of all the junk and put it in the proper place. We polished up the good stuff, put it back in the can. My can's now like at a 25% level of nothing but good.
Hell yeah.
And now I march forward looking for good to put in it. And now and again something stinky comes around and jumps around and gets in and I have no choice but to pick that up. Life comes. It just does. People die, bad things happen to good people. Other things like that, but now I have a set of tools where I don't have to pile up a bunch of junk in my can anymore. Before it goes in the can, I get to pick it up and process it using these principles and stuff. And if it's one of those not so good things, I can put it up over into the shelf I call the past.
There you go.
Where it belongs. And if it's a good thing, I can put it in my can and move forward.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's the tools that I have today. So those shitty things, they definitely still happen. Just because I have a business, have all these things back, doesn't mean my life's fucking peaches and cream. It's shit show every day. It's a shit show. But I know how to handle that shit show today.
Yeah.
Without blowing up, without taking it to the extreme.
And I would hesitate to say that. I don't know. I think probably shit show's a little out there. I think daily it's probably pretty damn decent, right? You've got some things you're dealing with, and probably you have some negative bias at the moment, maybe that few different things are laying on you.
Yeah.
But it's that negative bias thing of that. An ounce of negative weighs more than 10 pounds of positive.
Yeah.
And I can walk in a room and 30 people praise me, and one person say something negative towards me, and I go home and the only thing I can remember is what the one person said.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I didn't mean complete shit show. It is chaotic, is what is a better word I think for it. I've got 3 teenage daughters.
Yeah, man, I got
by
one,
myself.
And it's a handful.
And 13 animals in the house.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's a little chaotic from day to day. But it's okay. I get to do those things today. I get to have my kids in the house with me today, and I get to take them to school and to work, and to dance. All these things that I get to do today, man. And
they even come to TSSR with you.
They come to TSSR with me. My middle daughter goes to her own meetings now. She's going to Alateen.
Yeah, miracle.
And she has been for probably 6 or 7 weeks now. And it's not even the fact that I pushed that on her at all. I mentioned it months ago. And she came to me and was like, hey, what about these meetings for me? You know, just 6 weeks to 8 weeks ago. And I was like, yeah, we can definitely make that happen. And we have. And she's sure to remind me every Monday, Dad, meeting tonight. You know, and it's like, okay, I got you.
Cool.
You know, so that's, and she shares. She's already farther than I am. She shared in our first meeting, you know, and it was like, holy crap. Because she went in there with the same outlook I had. You know, like, I'm not going in talking to strangers. I'm not sharing anything. It's my business. And she went in there and opened straight up on them.
Yeah.
So,
you know, and that's so contrary to, and that's another one of those like justification rationalizations in their part, so to speak, of like, because girls are wired actually a little better than us to share, not keep our shit in the way that we do, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, they will actually, so like that is completely natural for her to get in there and talk about things.
Yeah.
And she thought she didn't, right? She told y'all, I'm not going to.
Sure.
You know,
well, that's what she's
in
saying,
therapy and other kind of different things. Y'all tried to offer some avenues, some places to go and things to do. And and I remember you saying, and I was always struck about that, you know, like a girl saying that she didn't want to talk about things. I was like, yeah, I don't really think that's probably true.
And see, I think a lot of that's learned behavior from my past. You know what I mean? Things that she's heard me say, seen me do.
Yeah.
And those things, like I said earlier, man, like the way I acted impacted everybody so bad, man. And I didn't realize that until I actually got clean and sober.
One of the biggest fallacies of this whole disease that we tell ourselves, one of the biggest rationalizations and justifications we use is I'm not hurting anybody but myself.
Yeah, it's such
it's
bullshit. Such bullshit. Because I destroyed everybody around me, probably worse than what I destroyed myself.
Yeah, and that's one of them karma balance things today, you know. Pretty much if you had come in contact with me prior to a certain time in my life, whether if you realize it or not, I had a negative impact on you.
Yeah.
Today I'm trying to balance them karmic scales that hopefully that I'm having at worst a neutral, and hopefully a positive impact on you. And I don't care if you're the man working at the Home Depot or the girl at the check-in line, or even getting into more deeper, more intimate stuff of people in recovery. You know, or if it's people that's working with me or people that I just know. I'm walking around trying to balance those karmic scales today of having leaving positive juju in my wake.
Yeah, and that's something that I still struggle with today, is accepting the positive compliments and the praises today, which is something that my sponsor keeps telling me. You know, you just got to accept that shit. It is what it's a gift. You got to accept it. Bless you.
Thank you. Coronavirus again.
Because I'm not used to it. You know what I mean? Like, I had a conversation with somebody the other night. I'm not used to somebody saying, you know, you have done a lot for me in this, in their recovery. You know, like, you're an inspiration. Like, I'm not used to hearing those things.
Yep.
And actually being meant. You know, sure,
yeah,
my family,
we want to shake them off, right?
Yeah, my family's programmed to say these things to me, right? Like, you're doing good, even though we know you've completely screwed it up. You're doing great, just to build us up. It's hearing it from outside people in meetings that I barely even know their name. You know, like, dude, I'm not used to accepting those things yet.
Those are gifts, and that's the same thing, you know. I mean, it's, I had to learn to accept. Recovery taught me how to accept gifts, and sometimes those gifts come in the manner of positive praise.
Yeah.
Because I feel, you know, I knocked myself around so many years thinking I was nothing but that I was no good and dirty and damaged goods and all that. And when people started telling me otherwise, I had a tough time. I mean, even really to some extent, I had learned to actually receive physical gifts. You know, if somebody in recovery would bring me a crystal, you know, I always want to shake it off. Nah, man, you don't have to do that.
No matter how bad.
And I've learned today, man, even when people bring me stuff today, even sometimes if I don't, you know, whatever it is, somebody brings me a gift today, my job is to accept that gift. Actually, that is my job, regardless. Otherwise, I'm robbing them of their joy of giving it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the same thing with a compliment.
Yeah.
Or some praise or some props on something you've done.
We're learning how to take them.
The proper answer is thank you, man. That means a lot to me.
Yeah. That's it, man.
We can bend our reality in the way we operate in the world too today, and you can how we actually interact with people. Whether if it's, and I spoke about this other night at TSSR and stuff. Of when I bump into somebody and I need something at the home, I just used that example the other night at the Home Depot, and this guy, hey, and I try to smile. I approach with a smile, and then, hey, would you be able to help me for a minute? And I try to be humble and not I need some help.
Yeah.
Or
hey,
would you have a minute to help me? And he didn't really want to. I could tell, his energy was not really. I don't have no time to help you. Of course, like I said, in my head, I'm going, well, you're wearing a damn orange vest, and by pretty sure that means your job is to help me.
You have to help me.
But I smile, and then after a minute, the guy's like, we're almost buddies. We're standing around and laughing, and when I thank him for his time at the end of it, then he's going, oh, man, it's no problem. You're welcome. It's my job, and I'm like, wish you'd approached it at the beginning. We'd have been, had a lot softer start if that had been the way we could have got this thing kicked off. But it didn't matter. I can bend my own reality by being the guy that I want to be, and it turns around, and, this sounds a little weird, but it's going to come out anyway. I get to bend that guy to be who I need him to be. By projecting positive attitude and a smile and courteous and patient, and
positivity breeds positivity.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
And it falls off on our kids, and it falls off on our family members, and and that's that ripple effect of recovery. Is when we start operating under these other guidelines, we have that ripple effect, like in a pond, and other people pick up on it, and it bends the reality of the environment we're sitting in.
Yeah.
That's really the huge magic with this stuff. I like that thing of, for whatever reason, I think it was Don M. said something, and again, he would give credit to somebody else about it, but, we get all these praise, and we get all this praise for being in recovery. So we actually get a little higher standing at some level than the poor sap who's done the right thing all along. And so we get to do that today, and I know that in some of my circles, because I used to be the mess I used to be, I garner a little more attention than had I been doing the same thing right all along.
Yeah.
Or doing the right thing all along.
Yeah. That's something else this program's given me, man, is the ability and the strength to reach my hand back up for those reaching down for me. It's something that I always knocked away is help. You know what I mean? And today I can ask for help when I'm struggling with something. Just like you were saying, can you help me with this? It doesn't matter if it's at the Home Depot or if it's with my everyday life in a meeting about steps, about anything. I'm okay with asking for that help because I need help. I need all the help I can get.
It's like that stereotypical thing about males not wanting to ask for directions. It's that same energy. It's that.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask for help.
I have.
And another thing, I don't want to ask for help too quick, though, right? Like when I go to Home Depot, I try to find the thing I need.
Sure.
But after a minute, I'm not going to wander around here a whole lot longer. I'm going to ask for some help.
Sure. Absolutely.
Wander around lost.
Absolutely.
Becky said the other day, and I don't know if it even made the recording or not, because we could have talked. I think we talked for an hour after she left. And I was like, man, I should have kept the mics rolling.
Wow.
But it's like having one arm stretched forward and one arm stretched behind, right? I'm reaching out forward for those who are further down the path for their assistance and their guidance and their wisdom and whatever the whole group conscience kind of thing. That's the way that works, is that. And I also got my hand stretched behind me to help those who are further behind me on the path, Also had another metaphor, carrying lanterns. This recovery movement looks like a whole bunch of people in a line with lanterns, and everybody's lantern helps the guy in front of them and behind them as we shine the light on the path.
It's awesome. That's awesome. So,
there went the sigh. Have you ever heard me talk about that? Really?
No.
A lot of people sit on the other side of that microphone, and at some point they will sigh.
Oh, yeah?
Rick, how like maybe there's some energy around a statement that might say, "Are you done?" And that feels kind of like, huh? That's a little. What do you mean by done? Yoga, when we in yoga teacher training and some of the other yoga workshops and different things I've done, they ask you. They say, "Are you complete in the moment?" and it doesn't mean that I'm done, doesn't mean the stories, but so that's why I hear that sigh a lot of times. It indicates to me it indicates to me that person is complete,
wrapping up
in this moment. And it's interesting how many times it happens. It's almost a lot of things happen at these microphones that are I never would have. I'm learning a lot by doing this. Say over and over again. The one thing is I get to, I heard a lot about you that I didn't know, so I know you better.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good thing.
Hell yeah.
And they know you better.
Hell yeah.
We get to carry this message to other people, and then these other little things like the sigh of. I think that's all.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's all the bad shit anyway. Some of the good stuff.
Well, you're celebrated a year in September.
Yeah.
So I don't know. My math ain't real good all the time. I count on my fingers still. I used to be embarrassed to count on my fingers when I was little. I thought it meant I was dumb.
Yeah, me too.
October, November, December, January, February, March. So a year and a half in a minute.
We're a year and a half almost.
Yeah. So I mean that's early in recovery. I just hit 5. And feel like I've I don't know if you stabbed a big fiberglass rod in the ground and you bent it over about halfway and let it go, and it sits there and swings and vibrates, and I kind of feel like I'm finally beginning to start to stabilize.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But my sponsors always taught me, and our sponsors, this thing of the continue and show me there was no limit to this thing. There wasn't a wall. You said something about they taught you that there'd be a wall.
Yeah.
You never was fed that. Although I totally understand what you're saying, and I can certainly see how, using certain philosophies, a wall would be there.
Mm-hmm.
My sponsors never taught me that there's a wall. That there's always more. And in my time here, 5 years just went by in a flash of the amount of items and the amount of things. If I keep my eyes open, where I get to practice the continue thing. Whether it be through, like some of my bigger ones of, yoga and mankind, TSSR, the podcast.
Yeah.
It's infinite to the directions we can go to continue. So the wall's been torn down.
It's gone. It's out of there.
The limits are raced off of the horizon.
Yeah.
And worst thing would happen is you go all the way around and start back here again.
That's okay.
And this is a good spot to start in.
Yeah, that's okay.
So yeah, man. You do inspire me. I love watching stories like yours happen, even though I wasn't I didn't see all of it. There is some kind of cool thing about like Vlad. I watched him come in on the day he got his first day he went to a meeting. He went to a meeting over here in Indiana in the daytime, and a guy took him and said, "Hey, man, you need to come." This is a Tuesday. He said, "Hey, man, later on tonight, you need to come over to this meeting with me." And I happened to be giving away white chips that night, And Vlad got up and got a white chip in the Spiritual Underground meeting.
Hell yeah.
And it wasn't too long after that he asked me to sponsor him. So I got to see that guy.
Yeah, the whole way through.
From his first day of meetings to today. And that's also not. But I did. So my point there is, I didn't get to see you from the get go, but I certainly saw a phenomenal amount of growth in the period have been watching you, and it hasn't really been that long. And that's another reason. That's another one of these things about. Somebody said, don't do these steps too fast, because you wouldn't want to. You don't want to get well too fast. Like baloney. Now I do believe there's a pace that's right, and I think that's the one that I was taught, that there's a certain pace that's right for this. For most folks and the people I work for, and it's not working them really fast, but in a matter of months, which is a blink in the eye of guys that are our age, or you're my age, and that's a pretty good spread. How old did you say you were?
38.
38. I'm 50, so 12 years at this age is not a big spread to me.
Yeah.
12 years at 12 is a big spread.
Yeah.
We these months of growth are phenomenal in a short amount of time. And I get to watch that today with people I work with, and then people that are, around me in my perimeter, and you inspire me to continue to want to do this thing, right? Because every person that walks the path and has these miracles happen in their life is more proof to me that it's real.
Thing works,
and you were talking earlier about thinking that maybe you didn't do the work right. there was a piece of me that at one point thought that maybe this thing don't really work.
And that's
And once in a while, they'll still cross my mind. I'll have those thoughts now that maybe I'm still conning myself because I was such a good con.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe I'm conning myself now in just a good way.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will actually just go, well, if that's the case, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact that I know that it's not that. Because I'm watching other people, and we can't all be. It's the power of this program, but there's also the power of my alcoholism still up there. That parasite still is wanting to buzz around and wake up and tell me this ain't real.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely, I still have passing.
That's why I got fought down to that day at a time living, and hey, it's real today.
Yeah. I still have passing thoughts, man. That the exact same thought used to get me. That's all it would take.
I rarely have any kind of it's a real rare thing for me to, and I can't even remember the last time that a drink or a drug sounded like a good idea. It's been quite some time since that's been on the table.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about good idea. Just with those
well, I mean, even on the table, a
do.
good idea. I don't mean that like a good idea, but more like even an idea, like an option.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since that's popped onto my wavelength that'd be something to do.
Yeah.
Because it's right off the bat a no.
Yeah, right.
It took a while though. I mean, I remember thinking for a while that still having thoughts that would stressors that would hit me, where that would my default position of putting something in me I knew would fix the problem for a minute anyway.
Yeah.
And it's that old thinking was still creep in when something was going on that a drink or a drug would help this and shake it off. I mean, when I was on home incarceration, I had a breathalyzer up there in the house. And was coming home from meetings with the thought that nobody's home, and if I could just get a 6-pack, I could go home and drink it, and nobody would know.
Yeah.
But then I would dawn on me that I had a breathalyzer at home, and there really was not escaping that thing. It was going to call for me in a matter of hours, one way or the other. First off, it was going to call for me the second I walked in the door. So if I went and got that 6-pack, I would need to wait until I got home, which would be incredibly difficult to wait until I got home to pop one. And then there was times where that son of a bitch would go off. You'd always caught me because of proximity of my ankle bracelet. So when I got home, it would whistle for me. Then sometimes I'd be heading down the steps, it would whistle for me again. And I could just know that was like
trick you up.
Yeah, that's like sitting there with the can of beer or whatever. This is my imagination. Sitting there with the can of beer, blow in the machine, beep, beep, picture taking, all that. Then I can go.
As soon as it
I'm off the hook,
lips.
I got because sometimes that'd be like 10:30 at night, and I would have till like 6:00 in the morning, and I really don't know what that, but my head still played those games about the escape trap, the escape route, how I could do this and still pull it off and beat that machine. But sometimes it'd be 10 minutes. Sometimes they'd call for me in a half hour, So I mean, they had I probably wasn't going to beat that thing.
Probably not.
But my head would still tell me that, and that would be my, like, when we talk about thinking to drink through, that sometimes that breathalyzer would be where I would land on thinking to drink through and go, yeah, nope, that'd be the end. That'd be where that thinking it through stopped. It wouldn't be jail or prison. I go.
Yeah.
You can't get a 6-pack tonight, man.
No. My go-to now, when I do have those thoughts, is like, I want to throw away the feeling that I have today, because this feeling outweighs any high, any buzz, any drunk.
It does.
The feeling that I have today, knowing that I'm doing my best to be what I can be today and just a little bit better than I was yesterday, outweighs everything, man.
Yeah. You ever listen to Earl H?
I do not.
He's got a step study kind of thing, talk. Speaker top that's called Catching the Buzz on the Steps.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I might have to check into that.
So, yeah, you don't want to give that up, man.
I don't.
I have one of my biggest things today, and I don't really know why it hits me, and I sometimes question about whether the value of it, but I think it is valuable, is frankly my accountability issues.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to tell everybody I did it.
Well, yeah, that too.
I've come too far.
I don't want to, because
I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to go back.
Yeah, my old self will kick in, and all the lies will start coming through again. And I'm not that person.
If I relapse, I think I'll have to move.
I'm not that person, into a box, into a hole somewhere on the other side of the world.
Yeah,
I don't want to lie to people today. Yeah. I don't. I'm not going to. you know. So I'm gonna.
Frankly, I got a handful of sponsees and different things that are actually counting on this dude staying sober.
Hell yeah.
So that they can have that proof, just like you're providing to me, that this really works. Because that's the other thing, we look around at each other, and I think that's part of the step 2 early on for me was coming to believe. My coming to believe is I believed it was working for that dude, and I've heard him talk, and he was worse than me. So if it'll work for him, I can believe it'll work for me.
Yeah.
And
even those stories for me, man, was like I'd hear bad stories of things, like rough stories, not bad stories, rough stories, like, damn, you had it really bad. You had it worse than me, but I still don't deserve to get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I've done my fair share of shit, you know?
Yeah.
And I do deserve it. I do deserve
ourselves up. Yeah, we do. We deserve it all. There was a time that I still used to use that language of I don't deserve all this. But I've stopped that. I've erased that out here. Same way I really am doing a good job of not. I rarely ever say I have to do something.
Yeah.
I always say I get to do something. When I hear somebody say have to, I always say get to.
Yeah.
And I try really not to say that I don't deserve it, because frankly, I think I deserve everything I get, and I deserve everything I'm going to get too, because I don't think this is the end.
No. Yeah, there's plenty more to come.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for coming by on this Sunday morning. I've enjoyed it immensely.
Thank you.
I like Sunday mornings for podcasts. I love when people decide to come on Sunday morning. I don't know. The energy just seems all right. It seems like just a real mellow energy in the world on Sunday mornings.
Yeah. I appreciate you inviting me out here to do it.
Yeah. Okay, final thought before we sign off?
I do not.
Cool.
Can't express how grateful I am for this, man. Today, you, the program, Chris, but everything, man. My gratitude can go on for days.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
This is what it's about, man. Is doing this deal, man, and carrying a message forward so that others may heal also. Yeah. So we'll sign off and close this one out. If you're not having a blast in your own recovery, it's your own damn fault. And thank you for allowing me to participate in my recovery in this manner today. Peace out.
Always tried to be just who they wanted. Always tried to do everything they said. Only did the things they would approve of. Lock away all your dreams inside your head. Year after year you try to be a good girl. They never failed to point out when you were bad. Stuck to the program like a robot. Became a trophy for mom and dad. But inside you want more. Everything you've been waiting for. Looking for that open door. So every day in your head, in your heart just keeps saying, let go and fly. Let go and fly. it's time to put away your baby toys. Make your mom have a plan. They said, boy, you're just a dreamer. When they saw you looking at the sky, you must work hard.